Joining me, Tomas Hora, good friend, event director for this year's Coupe Aéronautique Gordon Bennett in Albuquerque. How are you?
Good afternoon, Regan. Good. How are you doing?
Fantastic. It's good to see you, my friend. So, Thomas, we're heading to the States. What's the difference then between racing in the States and Europe?
It's a great difference. It's actually basically a different race out of a couple of things. So first of all, in Europe, you have Europe as a limiting factor, and Europe is not very big. So it's more or less a race to a spot. It's like a flying over 2,000 kilometers or so. And the United States or Northern America with Canada is so big, so you can really let the balloon go. So the distances are much farther, and not the countries are the limiting, or the continent is the limiting factor, but it's actually the human body or the gear you're flying with. So it's a total different race.
Interesting.
Then there's also some other differences, and that's because in Germany or in Europe as such, you have a very, very dense airspace. So you have to coordinate a lot with airports, with different countries. Last year we had I think 26 countries having permissions given and stuff like that. This is much easier in the States. You don't have the density of the airports. You have major airports like Dallas, Chicago, or Denver, but they're quite far apart from each other, so you can fly around them. And so the airspace is much easier, and also the communication. We had a really great communication with NAV Canada, who were very forthcoming. So the communication is much easier there in Northern America as well.
So yeah, last year the Black Sea was the limit, and that was our limiting factor. We don't have that now. So is it potential people here in Toronto might they see a few balloons flying over?
Yeah, very well possible. Very well possible. Toronto would be a great place. I mean, we had already people flying to Newfoundland from Albuquerque. So it is possible, but it's always the question of weather. And that's another difference between Europe and the States. I find the weather in the States more tricky than in Europe. Maybe because I'm used to European weather, but US weather is a little bit more tricky, with some thunderstorms coming up, the low-level jet over the Great Plains, which is a little bit a thing of an unpredicted thing, but can decide the race. So there's a lot of good meteorology needed for this race.
And we must touch on the subject, which has been very in the popular press, about balloons flying over the States. People can get a little bit excited about that, right?
Yes. People get excited about it. We will do some press announcement ahead of time. The organization in Albuquerque is great and doing it, and we have a good support, press support there. So I'm confident we will inform whoever needs to be informed that we are a peaceful balloon competing in a race. Yes.
And looking at the previous America's Challenge and that type of thing, it always seems to be that northeast direction. It seems quite common route.
Well, let me take you through the race as such. So you take off in Albuquerque, which is already at some 5,000 feet. That's quite high. That's a quite high takeoff altitude. And usually the wind goes from west to east. That's the regular direction. Nevertheless, right to the east, you have the Sandia Mountain, which is a high mountain of 12,000 feet. So you either have to fly over it and spend a lot of ballast, which shortens your time, or you try to sneak around it, in the north or the south, which is a little bit more difficult. Then you get to the plains. There you have maybe the low-level jet, which usually goes from the southwest to the northeast. So these are the regular directions. But we had already races ending in Florida, around Washington, D.C., but also mainly up in the Boston area and Canada. We also had, I think, one race a couple of years ago, which went very slowly to the west, but that was a very big exception.
Incredible. And for you right now, are you heavily involved in the planning, or is it light workload for you at the moment? What's it like for you right now?
I would say the main workload is on the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta. They're the team around Sam Parks and Jennifer Garcia doing a great job. I've been in Albuquerque some 3 weeks ago to have meetings with them. It was incredible how well prepared they are. It's every little detail is thought through. and it's really fun working with them together, which obviously also minimizes the workload on me. And I can concentrate more on the race, more on preparing the general briefing, which I'm doing right now, stuff like that. So I would say my workload is quite low compared to what they have to do in Albuquerque.
Well, great. Just a short one. Great to catch up with you, my friend. Looking forward to seeing you out there later on this year.
I'm also so much looking forward to seeing you, and especially all the teams. That will be fun.
Take care, Thomas.
Bye, Regan.